Good morning, everybody. Today is June 12th, and today's video is going to be a garden tour for the month of June. I'm also going to be doing some maintenance to the garden and giving some tips and tricks that I use in the garden that has helped me. So let's just get started. Alright, so first things first, I still got a couple of seedlings. And these are a bunch of tomatoes. This is a watermelon back here. This is eggplant. This is a loofah, which died on me. More eggplants. So I don't have room for these, to be quite honest. I mean, the garden is pretty full right now, as you can see. And the same thing for these. So this is a zinnia. So this is already flowering. This is a marigold. Bunch of marigolds. Again, two zinnias back here, and look at this marigold. It's looking for something to trellis onto. Alright, so we're gonna do this clockwise, really. So this is what I call bed 1. We have the green onions that are flowering, so I'm just gonna let these go to seed. Here we got some jalapenos. So these two are jalapenos. They're already starting to flower. I did cut off the first set of flowers, so this is a second set of flowers that are coming out for these. And that's basically to allow the plant to focus more on the growth rather than the production of the fruit, or in this case jalapenos. And then these down here are just all red bell peppers, but basically all bell peppers start off green and then turn to red and eventually yellow. Back here is a yellow neck squash. Here are some more green onions here that are again flowering. Have a tie-dye tomato. Now this square was open and I didn't know what to put, so I did propagate a sucker from the mother plant, which I'll show you guys a little later. But basically this was a sucker and now it's its own tomato plant. Just gonna take these suckers off here. So this is a sucker within a sucker. It's a little inception. But basically I took a sucker off of the mother plant, which I'll show you guys later, as I said. So I did this to this plant, and then rooted it in water and then planted it here, which is now this. So basically this can turn into this. And I have a video out if you guys want to check it out to show how you can expand your garden using suckers. And here is the newest bed that I have. So here, all in this back row, I have morning glories. And basically what I want this to do, as you can see, it's already starting to climb up the fence here. Want to be able to give a little bit of a privacy shade all across the fence here. I have and then 2 rows of tomatoes, if you can see here. Those 2, plus some marigolds in between. And I have different varieties of tomatoes. Mushroom baskets, 3 here. 2 of the Dr. Weechee's yellow, and 3 of the atomic grape, Brad's atomic grape. So I'm just gonna water this bed. Now for the watering, as you can see, I'm using a water wand. So I'm getting really close to the root level in order to water them instead of watering overhead. Because specifically for tomatoes, they don't like to get their leaves wet. Now you can wet them, however, as you can see, the soil is open, meaning I don't have any mulch down. So because I don't have any mulch down, if I water at a higher level, the soil can splash onto the tomato leaves, and that makes those tomatoes way more susceptible to getting disease and blights and other things like that from the soil. If you don't have any mulch down, I would suggest spraying as close as possible to the base and the roots. Alright, I want to give you guys an update of the grapes here. So we have a lot of grapes being produced right now. I'm super excited. So I've already put some netting over the grapes here, and that's just to prevent any birds from, you know, trying to munch on the grapes before I get a chance to. So now the pink jasmine is coming back. So you can see there's a lot of new green growth here, as opposed to all these drying tips. And yeah, I didn't end up changing anything really on the soil, which I believe it was a compaction issue. which is why it was starting to brown, but now it's starting to come back. So I've been just maintaining it, trying to keep it crawling up this pole here. And here, if you guys remember, this is my little mystery plant that I got from Lowe's spring event that they had. I believe these are marigolds is what it's looked like, but if somebody knows exactly what these are, let me know. We got some zucchini. There's not really any zucchinis to pick today. There is one small one here. I believe it got pollinated, hopefully. But here, got some dead flowers. I'm gonna pick those off. Also some dead leaves. These aren't really doing much for the plant. They're pretty much shaded out. Try and get as close to the base as possible. You don't need that. Look at that. Getting disease, yellowing. And the aloes in the back. And here we have the Yukon potatoes. These are Yukon gold potatoes. They're already starting to flower, as you can see here. And I planted 3 seed potatoes in this fabric pot. So this is 1 potato, 2 potatoes, and a 3rd in the back. The older leaves are starting to die off, and with the flowering, that's a good indication that these are almost ready to harvest. But I'm just gonna wait for these to flop over and basically die off on themselves, and then I'll harvest them. But if you haven't seen already my seed to harvest video for potatoes, I highly suggest checking that out. We got the dragon fruit. You can see here, there's some new growth. That's gonna turn into another one of these nodes. Same thing for this one. You can already see there's a growth point. Did end up mulching it down. Don't have to water as much as I used to because of that mulch. Right next to that, I have 2 bush variety tomatoes. These are the Roma Classic Paste tomatoes. Now for bush tomatoes, I want to point out that you do not want to cut any of the suckers. You just kind of want to let it grow, which I did here. The bush variety of tomatoes have a set amount of fruit that they're going to produce for you, so you don't want to cut any of those off. So down here, have the cucumber. Again, going on the lower and lean style. Now you can see here I have 2 main heads, so this is 1 main head and this is a second, and it's off of 1 plant. So I've been coming in periodically to cut these suckers, which are basically the same as the tomatoes, because I want most of the growth to go just into these 2 heads. Just keeps them much cleaner instead of just branching out like crazy, which you can do. But since I'm using the lower and lean style, I definitely need to keep on top of these. These are royal purple radishes interplanted in between. This one is a black beauty tomato. As you can see here, we have the black beauty. And look, you can see there's some growth at the bottom. I'm just gonna pick these off. I don't want them in there. They're gone. I'm gonna cut some of these lower leaves off of this tomato here. These are just cotton pads with alcohol. Just cleaning my little pruners here. This one here is a white Tomsol tomato. So, got flowers, but I don't see any fruits on this one. I want to be careful not to snap the stem. So this one's a Berkley tie-dye tomato. As you can see, we got the fruit in the back. So all these bottom leaves I've taken off, and that's for better airflow. With better airflow means less disease, less potential for moisture to get in between these like overlapping leaves and then cause disease in the end. So now you don't want to cut more than about 30% of a plant, say every month. So maybe once a month, depending on the growth. If they have a large growth spurt, which is what they're doing now, you don't want to cut more than 30% of the leaves, because that will then hinder it from growing. Now these Berkley tie-dyes are an heirloom variety. Heirloom basically means hasn't been cross-pollinated. So this This tomato here is the same as it was, say 50 or however long this heirloom variety has been around. This is the exact same fruit that it was in the past. Got tomato fingers. I did a good amount of pruning to all the tomatoes. All down the bed, you can see it's nice and clean at the bottom. And did the same thing here for these tomatoes. Again, intermix of Berkley tie-dye and white Tomsols. And here I have a row of lettuce. So this is different varieties of lettuce. Here you have some romaine lettuce, some Chinese spinach here, and then again a mix of the three all down the row. These corn are a new round of corn. If you previously seen my last garden tour, you saw that they got hit pretty bad by the earwigs. Got a small little lizard hole here. So I have the small little tray here. I've been putting water every so often just so that it gives the lizard a little water source. And next we got the L-shaped bed here for watermelon. So that's, I forgot what variety these are, but there's some Jubilees and then there's a desert variety, which I believe is this one here. And then we have the sunflowers. These are the mammoth sunflowers. I haven't really looked into exactly how to fully harvest these sunflowers. Here are some African daisies. I've been coming out periodically and deadheading all these, you know, spent flower heads. So just popping these off like that. That just encourages more growth of flowers. So here I have the cannabis. This one is a sativa. Same thing with this one. So these are two sativa plants. They're already starting to flower. As you can see, there are the pistils. These seeds came from a hermaphrodite, so I haven't seen any male parts, so this may just be a true female, but I've been coming periodically out to check. Now what I did notice is the stems. So if you can see, like the bottom is thinner, and then it's kind of fat here. I think, well, if you could check this one out, this is a better example. It literally indents. I've never seen this happen before to any plant, really. This has happened to all four of my cannabis plants. I have other two here. This one is another sativa, and that back one there is an indica, but they are all like that. And I believe it was due to the Vaseline that I put on the stem here. So for my earwig video, if you haven't checked that out, I'll put a link in the description. But I was having an earwig problem, and one of the solutions that I used was to put Vaseline on the stems of my plants. And what that would do is, if the earwigs would crawl and touch the stem that had the Vaseline, that would deter them from climbing up and then eventually eating, you know, the plant. Since all four of my plants have this issue, I believe it was due to the Vaseline. So it kind of corroded the stems, which, I mean, it's not really hindering them right now. They're looking fairly well, all of them. It's just the stems on these. Definitely don't try and put Vaseline on cannabis specifically, because I did put the Vaseline on the tomatoes and it really didn't affect the tomatoes in the same way that it did the cannabis. I mean, there is a little leftover residual of that Vaseline, but for the most part, the tomatoes had, you know, no issues with it. Here's some more cannabis. Now these were clones. The mother was Sativa 3, so that's the mother plant of these three. So I took clones from that plant and then rooted them with a little rooting hormone. For my first time cloning, they're not too shabby. Here's a lime tree, and this is not part of the lime tree, this is the actual grapes. So the grapes are actually growing through. So I'm just gonna let this kind of trellis on it, see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't choke it out, but I don't think it will. If necessary, I will just cut back the grapevines. Now we got this squash here. Now this one here, you could tell that it didn't get pollinated. So I'm just gonna twist this one off. This is already starting to rot. So you want to come out and take these off that didn't pollinate. And then here again, some more. This is a straight neck variety squash. Still haven't got any fruit off of this one yet. Still some dead leaves. Gonna take that off. Try and keep this clean. And here's another variety of squash. And sunflowers. They're already starting to die back. I've been deadheading it, but this one got hit by blight and it kind of transferred onto the beans, which really aren't doing well. I got a little, it's a dragon tongue bean that's ready to eat. So this is 2 bush varieties, and then these are the pole variety, which are supposed to be climbing up this. Now I did notice, since this is a Hugelkultur bed, it tends to get a little overwatered in a sense. I don't overwater it. I water it maybe once a week, but at the bottom you can see it's really wet. When I stick my finger in it, like this is like super muddy wet. I believe because of that, some of these squashes aren't really taking well. Like this one was planted at the same time as that one, and it's just hasn't grown as much as this one has, and I've evenly watered it each and every time. It's just, this isn't doing well. So what I might end up doing is, once all this, you know, dies back, I'm gonna not use this bed and then fluff it up with some perlite to add some more air. And then here we got some melons. So there's 1 melon planted here, another here, and then 2 more right there. I have a little PVC with some plastic netting. This is why I kind of like to use PVC in the garden. It's very modular. So I was able to piece together some of this unused PVC that I had in my stack, and then basically use it with some of these clips here. So just drill that in directly into the wood and put this netting, and this is going to be basically just for the cucumber to trellis up. And same thing on that side. I got 1 cucumber planted there and another 2 planted here, which I've already been weaving in and out. And this melon already popped into here. I didn't even do this. This did it naturally. So I might even just kind of weave this one in. And here I have the overwintered Fresno chili peppers. I have the onions that are still doing well. And then I have the carrots. Some small carrots. First time growing carrots. And lastly, I put in the self-watering pots. I have different varieties of peppers here. So this is Dukes de España. This one's a pepper blot. Another blot. This is a lilac pepper. So all these are peppers. They're all habaneros circled around, and then an eggplant antigua in the middle. And so far so good. I mean, some of these habanero peppers is taking a little time, but we'll see how this goes. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the tour. As you can see, we are in full production now here in June in Southern California. If you liked this video, found it to be helpful in any way, don't forget to give a thumbs up. And as always, you won't get a harvest if you don't sow seeds.